to this voice, you were tuned in to the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoke, and you are officially on the hot seat. What we do on the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. Who are we setting on fire this week? We talking Florida State football. So y'all come on in, Copper Squad. Let's chit chat about a thing or two, man. Paying homage to the ghost over my left and my right shoulder. I know you missed the gospel last week, but goddamn it, I'm back. Ding ding, classes in session. So this past Saturday evening, Florida State beat the Duke Blue Devils 38-20, I believe it was. It's a fairly interesting game. Doak was electric. It's always fun to watch a national televised game in Doak on a Saturday night, man. I didn't come to you all last week because last weekend, as I was getting my notes together after the game, it felt like I was saying the same thing I had said the week prior. Hell, maybe even the week prior to that. And the one thing I pride myself on is being original, telling the truth, and giving you all something fresh. Maybe something you haven't heard elsewhere, right? I pride myself on being as raw and as honest as I can possibly be. But one thing I don't want to do is give you stale information. I don't want to give you something that I've repeated over a period of time. I'll find myself saying the same things, but not consecutively, not here, 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 and here, right? And that's how I felt when I was writing down my notes. And that put me in an awkward position because regardless of what I say here, right? No matter what I say as you watch this video, Florida State is still undefeated. Florida State is still 7-0. Florida State is still one of the top 4 teams in the country, probably top 2 or 3, depending on who you ask. And the odd part about it is, or what made it feel awkward is, am I splitting hairs? Right? How much complaining can you fucking do, or how much complaining would I have been doing last week, talking about at that point, at that time, an undefeated 6-0 football team? And it's not necessarily a complaint. It's an assessment. These are things that I see. These are the things that I've taken note of. And with me, I try to forecast things, right? And yeah, fuck it, smoke the meteorologist. I try to put things in perspective now and maybe in the future. And I was on, shout out to my man Adrian. I was on the 863 Seminole TV podcast. And listen, I'm gonna put the link below in the comments. If you think I keep it honest, Adrian keeps it just as honest. Y'all go out there and support that brother. It's a really, really good show. He does really good work for the Seminoles. I was on this show and I was basically discussing, we talked about a lot of things, but one thing I was talking about, and I've mentioned it here before, is at some point or another, you're going to have the college football playoff poll come out, right, on ESPN. And they're going to, give you the top 4 teams. The committee is going to give the top 4 teams. And what I said on Adrian's show was, it's easier to stay in the top 4 than it is to get in the top 4. The reason why that's important is because the way Florida State has looked over more than enough games to make me uncomfortable is how they've looked, how they've sputtered, how they haven't been cohesive, how they haven't played complementary football, how the offense has lagged. Because when you're talking about undefeated teams, which is what the committee is going to be discussing, out of the undefeated teams, which are the best of the 4, you want to give them a reason. You don't want to give them any reasons to leave you out of that 4. I personally think that there may be only one team better in college football than Florida State as a whole, right? But I don't vote. My vote doesn't matter. And I'm not a homer. I think if you watch this channel, you know I'm not a homer, meaning I don't make things just because I don't say things just because I'm a fan of Florida State football. I'm honest, right? I can see a scenario in which Florida State is left out. They're left out of the top 4, whether it's justifiable or not. I can see it because Florida State are giving the voters ammunition to leave them out of the top 4. And you look at Florida State, and it's almost the enigma that is Florida State. Like, there's something holding this team back. Again, I'm talking about an undefeated team being held back. But just because they're undefeated doesn't mean they're perfect. I think there are things, because Florida State should, here I am. I'm trying to make excuses for what I'm saying, but I can't stress enough, okay, they are undefeated. I'm telling you that in the grand scheme of things, I'm a Florida State fan. A lot of people who frequent this channel are Florida State fans. We see things through a certain set of lenses that the rest of the college football world doesn't, and it is their job to be as unbiased as possible. You look at teams playing their schedules, how they look playing those schedules, the sexy wins they have. Are they bludgeoning those teams to death? These are some of the things that these committees look at, right? Or that committee looks at. And they vary in opinion. I'm okay with that. Um, Looking at Duke Saturday, look at Florida State play Duke Saturday, it would raise questions. Why were you down 10 nothing to the Blue Devils in the first half? Why were you losing to the Duke Blue Devils at halftime? With the quarterback who was, for the most part, playing on one leg. Why were you losing to a team at halftime that had to alter the way they call football games because they had a hobbled quarterback? Right? Why has your offense sputtered in occasions over the last 4 to 5 games? Why isn't Florida State clicking? Why doesn't at midseason? Why isn't Florida State still yet at midseason form? Those questions can hinder you when you're talking about undressing undefeated teams. It's kind of like, and I told Adrian this as well, you have the discussion about whose brother, LeBron or Michael Jordan. In the thralls of those conversations, you'll find out, or well, not find out, but it'll almost seem as if, depending on defending who, that the other player is trash, right? My argument to tell you why I think Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James will probably make LeBron James look bad in a certain light. You telling me why you think LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, it'll make it seem as if Jordan is a lesser basketball player. Because you're arguing greatness. You split hairs. Some of the things that you mentioned, they seem minuscule to a certain degree, but they're not, because this is what happens when you debate greatness. Well, again, third time, when you start talking about undefeated football teams, what do you think those conversations consist of? Now, don't get me wrong, it'll all work itself out, or at least you hope it works itself out. You want it to work itself out come November and December, right? But right now, like I just told y'all, you don't want to be on the outside looking in, because it's easier to stay in the top four than it is to get into the top four. Look, everybody is talking about that defining drive for when Florida State went ahead against Duke, right? I have no problem with that. That drive should be discussed as much as it is being discussed, because it was a season defining drive. My focus was on the first drive. The first scoring drive. The drive that Florida State scored their first touchdown on in that game. That's where my attention went. Because I think in a microcosm, or in the vacuum rather, I think that that's why people are so frustrated with this offense. That first scoring drive, because what I've been telling you all season long, this offense is built for no matter the situation. This offense is built to answer any question a defense may have. This offense is built for whatever the task calls for. And when you know it's built for that, it's frustrating when you don't see that offense play up to its potential. So let's go back to that first drive. So that was a fumble. I think it was on 2nd and 7, right? So what? It's 3rd and 11 at that point. You convert it to Johnny Wilson. Big 6'7" target on the outside, no problem. Next play, I think you go over the middle to Keon Coleman, incomplete, right? Okay. You get a 10-plus yard run by Benson, and it's called back due to holding. So what does that make it? It makes it 2nd and 20. You convert that to Morlock sitting over the middle. And then you look at what Johnny Wilson does as far as blocking on that touchdown run. Look at the adversity you faced on that drive. How many other teams would have folded? How many other teams would have folded at 2nd and 20? How many other teams, after their fumble, they would have been a little bit rattled, right? How many other teams would convert on third downs the way Florida State does, right? They have to be probably pretty creative to convert on third downs, other teams I'm speaking of. Florida State doesn't. Because no matter what you want to do offensively, Florida State can fucking do it. I think that drive and the drive in which Florida State went ahead, those two drives kind of paint the picture of why people are so frustrated. Because this offense is heavily reliant upon the explosive plays, as it should be because they're playmakers. One thing Mike Norvell said when he got here that it probably the truest thing he said since he's been at Florida State. This offense is made for playmakers. Big plays are made by playmakers. That's true. But there are other things about this offense that can be utilized that will put. That, I mean, the defense will really be at your mercy. There's the what you see in the screen game. You saw Lawrence Toy Philly score on the screen. You look at what you see in the underneath in the intermediate passing game because you have receivers who can get separation. You look at in the run game, you're doing all of this with an average run game at best. I understand what the numbers say, but I also know what the eye test shows me. Florida State's run game, and this is without Travis running, is average. And I talked to you about this last time we spoke. The offensive line has not been as good as we wanted it to be. And listen, I am been a proponent all season. Find your five and play your five. All this game of musical chairs you're playing, all this goddamn shuffling, I don't think it's doing that unit any good. And it may be, y'all get in the comments and tell me what you think about the offensive line. I could be dead ass wrong. Because don't get me wrong, there was a unit, I don't recall who was out there, but there was a unit I saw. I think Emmanuel was even playing left guard. There was a unit I saw, and Florida State looked well with that unit. I had never seen that combination before, ever. And they looked damn good with that combination. I don't remember if they scored, but I remember they moved the ball, and they gave Travis time to do what he does, which is, throw darts and move around, wherever the case may have been. But I just moving forward, when you get into the thick of this schedule, when you talk about ACC championship games, when you're talking about if our dreams come true, you're talking about playoffs, you want a consistent five because continuity matters. And I know a lot of these guys have been banged up, but thank goodness for depth. Outside of that, find your five and stick to it. That offensive line has not been playing as well as we thought it would, and the running game has suffered because of it. Because one thing I do know for certain is this offense is still really good. It would be great if Mike Norvell could run the ball the way he wants to. Whoo, shit. What did I ask y'all after the LSU game? How do you stop it? How do you stop this team? How do you stop them? And then, lo and behold, you find out that shit, there's an answer to it. And I gave y'all the answer. They stopped themselves. Another defense can't do it. Mike Elko, to me, didn't stop Florida State in the first half. Florida State stopped Florida State in the first half. I think it's time for Mike Norvell to stop letting analytics coach his football team. In the sense of the analytics say go for it on fourth down here. You probably shouldn't. Not on your own side of the field, Mike. And I understand it. It's exciting. Fans love going for it on fourth down. You want to play complimentary football. You don't want to put Adams. Listen, y'all. I never thought in a million years, especially at the start of this season, I never thought in a million years that I'd say this. Adam Fuller isn't what's wrong with this team. Mike Norvell is. And it's not Mike Norvell, right? It's not just Mike. It's his offense. And the reason why I'm not saying Mike, because there's plenty of enough blame to go around on that offense. There are things that happen that are out of Mike Norvell's control. Mike Norvell doesn't drop passes. Mike Norvell doesn't miss his blocking assignments, right? Mike Norvell doesn't overthrow receivers. And some of his play calling and some of his decision making is questionable, but to you, I ask, what do you deem as a bad play call, right? You look at the score, you look at the down and distance, you look at the time, you make the call. Some of the time, the personnel is questionable, right? There's enough blame to go around. I'm just saying, on the offensive side of things, they aren't helping Adam Fuller the way they should because he's producing turnovers. He's probably not getting as many 3 and outs as you would like. But I told y'all before, I don't need his defense to be dominant. I don't. Only because I expected that offense to be blistering good, and it hasn't been. There's still a lot of meat left on the bone for Florida State and their goddamn offense. Whatever the score was at any point this season, you could tack at least, in every game, you can tack on at least 7 more points. Because Mike Norvell called that game in the first. When I say tack on 7 points, let me go back. When I say tack on 7 points, I mean as it relates to the potential and the play calling and the drop passes and the pre-snap penalties. There have been opportunities where drives have been killed by these things, right? And man, oh man, Mike called that first half as if that offense has been humming the entire fucking season. Mike called that game as if he either didn't respect Mike Elko, their defense, which I don't think was true, or he called that game as if this offense had been blistering and scoring 50 points week in and week out. We know good and hell well that ain't been true. And I get it. Like I just told y'all, going for fourth down is sexy. It's cool. It's fun. And I just told y'all, no matter what the hell the situation calls for, Florida State can answer the bell to it. You ain't been doing it. I don't know why. Before I go any further, let me tell y'all something. I don't. Y'all know better than me. Probably, y'all probably have a better memory than I do. I don't think I've ever complained about officiating. And if I have, it's probably only been once. I don't like complaining about officiating because when we get a call that goes our way, they're probably shit. You don't hear the fan base saying that shit. I've seen Florida State linemen do a good bit of holding them damn selves. I've seen Florida State DBs get away with a PI or two. So I don't complain about bad officiating because bad officiating usually goes both ways if we're being honest. But god damn, it's getting out of hand now. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this always goes hand in hand as it relates to this team gets a bad call and that team gets a bad call. There have been games where Florida State got the brunt of the bad calls. My only point was it goes both ways, but shit. Florida State probably should have shut the hell up in the offseason about all this conference realignment shit. Because it's almost as if the commission has it out for Florida State, man. Because some of these calls are, woo, this shit is egregious. This is bad. Somebody need their ass whooped. That's how bad this is. Just get me out there and get me a hat and one of them tight ass shirts. I'll go to because and I don't know half the rule book they know, but it can't be this hard. I refuse to believe officiating football is this hard. I know you only got one set of eyes per official, but I know you got multiple referees on that goddamn field, and it seemed like Stephen Wonder and Ray Charles are officiating these goddamn games. Shit. I think all things considered in a perfect world, had Florida State gotten the calls that they should have gotten, I don't know if Duke scores 20 points. Right? What I think on offense without that pick six, Duke probably scores what they score 13. So I don't think the offense puts up 13 points. Which brings me to this point. I don't have a hat on, but tip of the hat to Adam Fuller. And I've been consistent in saying this for the most part. He isn't the issue. He is not the problem. There have been times I thought he could have done better. Yeah, there were times in this game I thought he could have done better. Because I'm being honest with you, if I'm the defense coordinator, Florida State would probably be 0-7. Nah, I say 2-5. Florida State would be 2-5. But if I'm the defensive coordinator, Leonard wouldn't have made it out of the first half. Just being honest, I'm not saying I would have purposely tried to hurt him. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm telling you, there would have been a lot of run blitzing, and it would have been a lot of overloading to one side blitzing. I'd have got his ass up out of there. Knowing that you can't move, either your coach is going to take you out or you're going to take yourself out. Because I'm going to be, listen, you are going to be very well acquainted with the turf. You're going to be eating grass every chance. And if, listen, you burn one of my corners, you burn one of my corners. Because I'm supposed to have a really good goddamn offense on the sideline that can get them 7 of those 3 points back. hint, hint, wink, wink. But I don't. That was probably my only gripe with him. But as I've told you all before, I don't aspire for any. I don't aspire to see perfection in sports. I don't think it's possible. I don't aspire to see Mike Norvell or Adam Fuller call a perfect game. whatever, even by my standards, whatever they may be, they're they're way better at their jobs than I am at critiquing them about their jobs. So you look at what their defense have done, and although they haven't played an offense that just sets the world on fire, you still go out there and you defend what's in front of you, and he's done a magnificent job of that, mostly in the second half. But he's done a good job. I just never thought that I'd say that what's holding this team back is the offense. That is fucking crazy to even hear me say it. And sometimes, man, you just have to be lucky. I've told you that it's really, really, really hard to go undefeated in college football. Sometimes luck does play a part. Well, here's your luck. I can't believe they called that play. Cannot believe it. All things considered, when you're looking at you had Beelan back in at quarterback, and I've always said that the back of the end zone gives you an extra defender. And hell, if Riley is in the game, he probably hits that receiver. I don't fucking know, but Elko played to win, and I respect that. I still can't believe he called that play. But when you look at it, I guess, hell, if we don't get it, they're inside the 5. I have faith in my defense. They've done well up to this point, so we probably forced them to punt. Well, all of that makes sense if Florida State doesn't have Jaheim Bell. He took that drive over. As much as we want to talk about what Jordan Travis did the last 2 drives, as we should, Jaheim Bell, if I am going to be a homer, if I've ever been a homer, if I've ever been a fan and speaking fan talk, this is probably it. Brock Bowers included, I think Jaheim Bell is the best tight end in college football because versatility matters. I'm not saying that there is something that Jaheim Bell does that Brock Bowers doesn't. What I am saying is I don't think the things that Brock does, Jaheim doesn't do better. Regardless of what it is. No matter what route you ask him to run, whether it's a tight end around, whether it's a tight end screen, whether it's blocking, whether it's just he does a good job of finding, like if a team does play zone against Florida State, he does a good job of finding a spot and sitting there, a really good spot and sitting there. He understands routes. He's played running back. I don't know if there's a more versatile tight end in college football, nor do I think there's a better tight end in college football. Brock is all world. I'm not disputing that. I think Jaheim Bell is all world too. When he became a Florida State Seminole, I remember telling you, because we had an influx of transfers at the time. I remember telling y'all that's the guy I'm most excited about. You see why. He adds a dynamic to this football team that we haven't seen in a very long time. I can see why Landon Thomas wanted to come to Florida State. Not to say that you don't want to go to a powerhouse like Georgia that doesn't produce tight ends, but the difference is what you see with Georgia and tight ends, Brock Bowers specifically, is they don't have the playmakers on the outside that Florida State does. Florida State has 2 guys that are going to get drafted. One guy's going to be drafted pretty damn high, and you still see the production from the tight end position. You don't see that in Athens. You didn't see it this year, and you don't see it last year, right? I don't think that Georgia has the playmakers Florida State does. And even if they did, I don't think the tight end would be featured as much. I think we need to make sure that we tip our hat to Jaheim Bell because, man, Florida State doesn't win that game if he doesn't step up the way he does. And that's the beautiful part about having so much depth and so many playmakers. And I hope Johnny's okay, not for football purposes. I just know what concussions. I just know what concussions can do over a period of time. I hope he's all right. I hope it's not a concussion, but if it is, I hope he's okay. But you're looking at inserting somebody else, right? Okay, Johnny Wilson can't play. What are we going to do? It's not no more so what are we going to do. The targets you give him, you just give to him, right? It's not more so plug and play. It's just you just slide this attention over here. You slide your scheme, your strategy, and your focus to this person, right? Because you see what they're doing. They did a great job of shading Keon for the most part, but that left somebody open. That somebody was Jaheim Bell. This is when Mike Norvell is in his bag. This is when Mike Norvell is the guy who we know him to be. Get this guy the ball. Find different ways to get him the ball. Because he's hard to cover, he's hard to tackle. And he blocks like his back is on fire. if I'm a home, and a lot of people would disagree with me about their Bowers thing, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. I've been wrong before, but it's just my opinion. I do believe that when you put everything into the bowl, Jaheim Bell he's the best tight end in the country, bar none. But I rambled enough. Gonna go ahead and end it there. I'll just leave you with I can't stress enough. Like we've seen the college committee, the college football committee, over a number of years get it wrong. How pissed off are you going to be if they get it wrong with Florida State? We all know that Florida State is one of the top 4 teams in the country, and this isn't me predicting that they won't be in the top 4 when the rankings come out, right? I'm just saying there are a lot of people who want Washington in their 4th spot, and how can you argue them? I can make a case for Florida State, but I can also make a case for Washington. You understand? It'll all probably work itself out, but there are other undefeated teams. Don't give them any ammunition to leave you out. You go out there, you be who we know you can be, and then there's no question. Then the conversation shifts to maybe we should put Florida State at 3. I think they're top 2, right? But we're not talking about what smoke things. We're talking about the committee. If you go out there and play to your potential on both sides of the football, you see the explosiveness. You see you see the and that's I'm talking about the explosive punt return. I'm talking about the explosive on the kick returns. You see the consistency in the kicking game. If you go out there and play to your potential in all 3 phases of the game, we're not talking about Florida State holding off somebody who would be 4th or somebody who would be 5th or 6th in the rankings. We're talking about swapping Florida State with whomever 3 may be. Go out there and leave no doubt. Leave it all on the goddamn field. Because, frankly put, people are stupid. And unfortunately, stupid people vote on football. It's just the nature of the business. That's the game we play. But the solid time I'm giving you, the solid time I got. As always, I appreciate your time. If you come on here, you click that play button, you listen to me, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit that like button for me. You subscribe and hitting the like button does a lot for the channel. If there's somebody you think who enjoys this type of content, share with them. I definitely appreciate that. You can reach me on the Hot Seat 19 on Twitter. Same handle on Instagram, man. And as always, I enjoyed y'all. You are officially off the hot seat. Y'all be good.